welcome to the first edition of Gudday Grenada for a brand new week. I certainly hope that you had yourselves a great weekend, as did I. Yaman, yaman, yaman. They're at it again this morning. She's going to leave her mark. I see that Anthea is first up this morning, saying good morning to you guys. Yeah. So nice to see you, man. Thank you very much for joining us. And you just edged out. Mr. Franco. John, keep trying, keep trying, keep trying. Your turn will come. Folks, today happens to be, what, the 20th day of January. And you know what the 20th of the month means? Value added tax. Make sure you get down there before 3 o'clock this afternoon and put your little thing in the kitty down there, right? Your contribution to nation building, despite how you may feel about all the things that are going on in this place. Get down there and put your 2 cents in. Pilgrims, pilgrims, pilgrims. Let's take a look at what sort of mischief. I'm kind of pumped up this morning because you're going to find out why in a minute. Chinese presence in Jamaica is a cause for concern? Well, you're going to tell me. Because we're going to run a little piece here this morning that has been making the rounds on social media a lot. Everybody knows what's happening with the Chinese globally, and including right here in Grenada and in Jamaica. It seems like they're a little bit more reactive than we are here this morning. So wait until you see this little piece. Then Mia Motley, this lady is also creating quite a mark on the political scene in CARICOM. She's the new chairman of CARICOM. Mia Motley has a few things to say. And she was addressing a gathering just over the weekend sometime. And she made some comments which sort of put the question in the minds of a lot of people. Is the United States attempting to divide the Caribbean region? Yeah. Wait until you hear that. Short piece, only about 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes or so. And we'll see. We'll see what you have to say. We do have the national report this morning. Now, the reason why I said to you I'm kind of excited this morning is because, as you know, for the past couple of weeks, we have not had fiscal alert with the Bain sisters. And yes, I do know that a lot of you folks missed them. So have I. Well, guess what? Not the whole kit and caboodle, but we have 2 out of the 3 of them this morning. I expect one, Gemma. Gemma is going to be sitting in this chair right next to me here. And the other one, Janice, the doctor. Janice is going to be joining us from the United States by phone. Okay? So that, my dear friends, is your rundown on this wonderful show Wednesday, says Arthur Langai. Good morning, Arthur. Excuse me. Arthur said wonderful show yesterday. Thank you, Arthur. Big eyes you got. And he's saying happy Monday to us. Lydia James is saying good morning from a snowy Canada. You're back in Canada? I thought you were here. Okay. She's back in Canada. Take the snow, girl. Take it. Bernard Gilbert is saying good morning, and Kippy is also saying good morning. And what else is John Franco saying here? Are you saying they are the new colonialists? Who are the new colonialists? Not quite sure what you're referring to. Anyway. Huh? Okay. Arthur is also saying welcome back to the Bain sisters. Now, my dear friends, let us get down to brass tacks. Oh, hang on a sec here. Yeah. Things are very topsy-turvy this morning. I don't know why. There are a few little things here that just aren't working the way they should, but we'll pull through. Hey, wait a minute, guys, just give me a break. While China may appear to be helping developing countries around the globe, the fact is, there are great concerns about the motives behind the unprecedented generosity being demonstrated by the Chinese, including the fear of losing sovereignty by these developing countries. Here in Grenada, we have been the beneficiary of grants and concessional loans, leaving Grenadians to wonder whether we will ever be able to repay the latter. But we're not alone. Other islands have also fallen for what many are describing as a debt trap. Take a look at what's happening in Jamaica.
Step onto a Jamaican construction site and you might wonder, what's with all the Chinese workers? These boots on the ground, part of China's foray into the Caribbean, bringing with it Chinese loans, but also friction. These are the beginnings of a much-needed children's hospital, a gift from China, but one with strings attached. It's their contractor, up to 50% their workers, leaving many in the local industry cut out. At sites across Jamaica, it's often like that, except it's usually a loan, a big one.
So they're doing a number of buildings looking very similar to that one.
That has engineer Carvel Stewart speaking out.
You're saying China essentially loaned money to itself to do work in another country?
Well, that's what it did, because it lends you the money, and on the bottom of it, it says the beneficiary is China Harbour Engineering Company.
The people who build the roads and do the projects.
The people who build the roads and do the projects.
While the infrastructure is needed, the added debt, he says, is not, especially if China's investment doesn't improve the economy in the long run.
We will be seeking funds to repay those loans later on without having had the opportunity for the economy to earn from those funds.
To understand who wins and who loses, we're hitting the road. Jamaica borrowed $700 million to have a Chinese state-owned firm build this toll highway. 1,000 Chinese were imported to do the work alongside Jamaicans. It's also the first pillar we see of China's strategic plan, an outlet for their labor. And it's hard for Jamaica to say no to China. A country full of dilapidated roads and a government too broke to fix them all. So locals hustle to collect money to pay for cement and do the work themselves.
Important how we do it.
To put it in perspective, we're heading to meet one of Jamaica's most senior statesmen.
Ambassador.
How are you?
Very good. Thank you very much. Very good to meet you. We'll get you right
Richard Bernal was Jamaica's ambassador to Washington, now runs a global center at its main university.
I know there are cases in other developing countries where they bring in a lot of their own workers. But in this case, the numbers are relatively small and they have been reducing over time.
He dismisses concerns over who's doing the work when you consider what Jamaica is getting with the loans.
One, the terms are quite generous, long repayment periods, low interest. Secondly, the Chinese are very competitive in carrying out these construction projects. And thirdly, what you find is that it comes with less conditionality than Western aid.
But in return for its money, China is looking for influence and opportunity. And that is all about location. So this is Little Goat Island?
Yes, it is.
Goat Island sits directly north of the strategically critical Panama Canal.
Yes.
And this is where the Jamaican government agreed to allow the Chinese to build a huge port.
This is where they want to build a port.
But when Ingrid Parchment heard about it, she knew it had to be stopped.
I thought, why are we giving away one of our major resources to somebody because they have an idea? Why aren't we protecting for us what we need?
She leads a group responsible for coastal conservation.
What was it that concerned you in particular?
I think the idea that they were going to be leveling the island, removing all of the trees, which is habitat for birds, and also the mangroves in particular, which are where the baby fish and crabs grow. We'd also have been doing a lot of dredging. And the dredging would mean that all of the seagrass, all of that lovely starfish you saw coming, etc., all of that would be lost as well.
But not everyone had a problem.
I think there were mixed responses. Persons thought there's opportunity for employment. Others thought maybe they would be using their boats to carry material back and forth.
Jamaica struggles with that mix, and few places better illustrate that than here, the Alpart mine. Another pillar for China is access to the Caribbean's resources. This mine lay dormant for years, but China needs aluminum, and the bauxite they process here is a key ingredient. When Chinese conglomerate Gisco bought it, they got that access, and the community got jobs.
Do you know anybody who worked at the mine?
My aunt is a chef.
We depend on the mine. That's what we depend on. We don't have no other else source besides the plant.
But the mine's reopening also brought problems. Last month, it shut down for an upgrade, pushing many back out to unemployment. But not before Jamaica's environmental regulator issued 16 enforcement orders against Gisco. The source of the problem? This vast residue disposal area. It was blamed for causing serious environmental and human health issues in the neighboring community.
Actually, a mile from the mud lake, and it's really disturbing me.
Are you worried for the kids like this?
Of course, 100% worried.
When the dust blow, sometimes it rash up our skin and all of that.
These are legitimate concerns, but they aren't new ones, says Ambassador Bernal.
I'm not saying they haven't broken some laws, but guess what? The residue from bauxite plants have been here since they were established 50 years ago by Canadians and American firms.
So if Jamaicans are concerned, he argues, they should take it up with their own government. Which is what Ingrid's group did. They pushed back against the government and won. Plans for the port on Goat Island? Cancelled.
One of the things we were fearful of is that if you allowed for this, then what next?
China did ultimately build Caribbean ports, just not in Jamaica.
I think the big thing is trade.
China analyst Scott MacDonald is writing a book all about it. He's even got the title, The New Cold War in the Caribbean.
Is the U.S. and China definitely have marked out a new competitiveness, a rivalry, if you want, that does look like a Cold War in some aspects.
Because this is right in their backyard. This is the American backyard.
This allows China to make a poke at the United States in a soft underbelly, if you want.
The U.S. has warned Caribbean countries about taking on too much debt from China.
Does debt mean that you are much more than just indebted on an economic level, that you are in part owned by China?
I wouldn't go to say that you're owned, but perhaps China has a leverage.
China has enough sway that Jamaica's Prime Minister just visited Beijing, but soon after announced a pause in any new borrowing, shifting more towards public and private investment. Jamaicans are now among more than 4 billion people globally touched by China's involvement beyond its own borders. China is playing the long game, and it's getting closer and closer to our own shores.
And there you have it, our first act on this Monday morning. Yeah, Jamaica. Boy, it's not just Jamaica. It's not just here in Grenada. Other Caribbean islands and other small nations, developing countries around the world, seem to find themselves in the grasp of the Chinese. Let's keep an eye and see where this goes. Hey, listen, the whole world is changing, okay? It is. Now, good morning, Harry. I see that Harry Gibson's joined us this morning, and so has Vincent Ignatius Roberts, like Sharon Elizabeth Wilshire. Yeah, haven't seen Sharon. Hermione Fraser, Carlene Vesper, saying good day. John Franco is saying good morning. Lindana Charles is there with us this morning. Mr. Bob Blanco is with us as well. Ryan Jaban has joined us. And so is Jackie O. Jackie O. How'd you arrive at that name? That's not your real name. Jackie O. What's the OH for? Oh, my Jackie. Yeah. Okay, folks, now let's move on. While speaking to a gala to celebrate the centenary of the birth of the Right Excellent Errol Barrow on Saturday night in Barbados, Prime Minister, the Honorable Mia Amor Motley, QC MP, commented on the highly publicized scheduled visit to Jamaica by the U.S. Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. Read between the lines as you listen to some of her comments, folks. Read between the lines. Here we go.
I am conscious that when Errol Barrow stood and remarked that we shall be friends of all and satellites of none, little did he know that that statement would be embraced by every single Prime Minister and government that succeeded him. It is as valid today, perhaps even more so, than it was at the time of its initial delivery. And I say so, conscious that principles only mean something when it is inconvenient to stand by them. Conscious that this region must always check itself to ensure that we not become the pawns of others, the satellites of others, but that we keep evermost and uppermost in our minds what we must do for our people without simply becoming pawns on a chessboard for others to be able to benefit from. I am conscious that in the next week questions will be asked as to whether the Barbados Foreign Minister happened to be missing from a meeting in Kingston, in Jamaica, that will take place on Tuesday. And we don't look to pick fights. I don't look to pick fights. But I am conscious that if this country does not stand for something, then it will fall for anything. As chairman of CARICOM, it is impossible for me to agree that my foreign minister should attend a meeting with anyone to which members of CARICOM are not invited. If some are invited and not all, then it is an attempt to divide this region. But that sense of commitment to principle and that sense of commitment to the thesis expressed by him that we have lived by, friends of all, satellites of none, is really what inspires us to this position today. And therefore, it didn't take a lot of thought as to what our decision should be, because this country does not pretend to be what it is not, and does not pretend to have that which it doesn't. But it does aspire to be sincere and to be correct and to be moral and to be principled. Barbados First, as expressed by both Grantley Adams and Errol Barrow, has come to mean for us that Barbados must stand for something. And I give thanks that that expression of leadership to that person who first gave us the right to vote, then that person who gave us the right to independence, has been followed for the most part by this country and its leaders. Similarly, the understanding that we shall not loiter on colonial premises or loiter on any premises where we are not wanted continues to be as relevant today as it was then. The expression delivered to the President of the United States of America, who offered to pay our dues to join the Organization of American States, when Mr. Barrow politely refused and said, in our part of the world where I come from, if you cannot afford the dues, you do not join the club. That is the Barbados First to which I speak.
This lady, this is quite a prime minister, Mia Motley. She's had an awful lot to say in the very short time since she assumed the role of the chairman of CARICOM, and I can guarantee you, you're going to be hearing an awful lot more from her. No holds barred with me and Motley. Pilgrims, 20 minutes after the hour already, we're starting to slip behind. So let's scurry along here. Let me say a quick good morning to Sean Notap. He says refreshing. I guess he's referring there to me and Motley. Claude Pudna is saying good morning. And hello, Sharon. I just mentioned that I hadn't seen you, but Sharon Roberts is there. She says, one cannot help to admire Mia. She has more guts than any other PM in the region. Yes, yes, Sharon. That's exactly what you said it a little bit better than I did. Arthur Langine says, I love to listen to this lady minister. She don't hold back the facts. Hey. See? Sean says, no need to read between the lines. She takes the lines away. Amen, Sean. Absolutely. You're going to be hearing a lot from her. How are you saying? Good morning, Bradley Vespre. Hey, folks, like I said, we're rushed. So let's take a break and come back with the National Report.
Inspection and licensing have begun, and at Hubbard's, we want you to be ready. From January to February 15th, we're offering vehicle owners with single registration letters 1 to 2,500 and plural registration letters 1 to 250, 10% off our new torque tires and Power Max batteries. Don't get caught unprepared. Visit us today at our motor department in Mungay or our tire bay in Grandance, located near Hubbard's Building Supplies.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank. And there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Together with you, our customers, we energize our community.
Together with you, we energize our economy.
We are working together to give our nation a better tomorrow.
With you, we energize our future. Together, we energize our nation.
Thank you for partnering with us as we energize our Spice Island.
Redleg, energizing our Grenada.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Public Workers Union and the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union signs agreement for salary increases from January 2020. Details to this story and more in the National Report. Welcome back with the details to the news for Friday, January 17, 2020. I am Sherry-Ann Noel. Joint negotiating unions, Public Workers Union and the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union have signed on to the collective bargaining agreement for salary increases for public officers for the period 2020 to 2022. On Friday, President of the Public Workers Union, Rachel Roberts, and President General of the Technical and Allied Workers Union, Andrew Lewis, in the presence of the Labour Commissioner, signed on to the agreement. This follows months of negotiations between the government negotiating team and the joint unions. As of January 2020, all qualified public officers will receive a 4% increase until the period ends in 2022.
While we have signed off on this document, we know that we have a number of outstanding issues that we must fix on the table very quickly, because as we have signed, we are very concerned that some of our members are not at this moment going to be receiving that 4%. And therefore, we want to say to these members, we are negotiating diligently on the table to ensure that all our members benefit. Government did indicate on the table that all members would be receiving 4%. And as such, our expectation is that all our members would be receiving that 4%.
And it is our expectation that our members will get the increase as we have signed. But most importantly, as the government has been saying, that all who would have made sacrifices over the period and worked in the government service must share in the rewards. And therefore, it is our expectation that all workers, let me repeat, all workers, in keeping with the commitment given by the government of Grenada, all the workers who work side by side with the established workers will receive the 4% increase for 2020, the 4% increase for 2021, and 4% increase for 2022.
Moving along, the Royal Grenada Police Force, in collaboration with the Ministry of Infrastructure, on Wednesday held a town hall meeting with residents of Mount Morris at the Mount Morris Community Center. The meeting was called as a result of the significant geological shift in a section of the Molyneux Public Road that has affected the structural integrity of the road. The full extent of the significant geological shift is not certain, and a number of regional engineering firms have been engaged to assess the gravity of the situation. As a result of the aforementioned, the Mount Morris Public Road has been so designated as bypass roads from two areas that came into effect December 16, 2019. Acting Chief Technical Officer in the Ministry of Infrastructure, Naja Andal, in addressing the issue, stated that during the last quarter of 2019, the Ministry of Infrastructure began procuring an engineering firm and referred to the $38 million funding facility under the UK SIFT for the Western Corridor that is administered under the Caribbean Development Bank.
Before the Molyneux slippage started getting as bad as it is now, we had a particular TOR to address all slippages, right? So we wanted to address more than 12 slip areas. But given the extent to which the road has deteriorated now, we have to speak to our development partners, not the Caribbean Development Bank, and come to some agreement on one, what will we redraft the terms of reference to reflect? Do we want to get an additional funding facility for the Molyneux because it is a national disaster right now, or do we want to leave it under that initial facility? So that will mean that maybe the Molyneux slip will be the only project funded under that. So these are decisions that we have been analyzing and that we have to make.
Officer in charge of the Traffic Department, Superintendent Randy Carnott, in addressing the residents, said that the options were very limited and the only two bypass were Freedom Street area and the Jones Road.
Two concepts were conceptualized. The initial one was to route the traffic in the opposite direction to which it was. And then after review, and you have some seniors within the community who always reach out. I wouldn't identify them here by name. But when they reach out, we had that discussion. And we realized that putting this additional volume of traffic in Mount Morris and to route the traffic the opposite direction to which it is now would have placed an even more significant challenge to the residents. And we had to take that into consideration. Hence the reason why we rethink this strategy, and the traffic is as it is right now. And to date, I don't think that we have on record any accident in that particular area. I could only remember there was one breaking down of a vehicle. But if there was any accident, it might just have been just an isolated case.
The only other option, Superintendent Carnott says, was the Grenville Vale route to exit through the Constantine area.
This option was only reserved for trucks. While that was so, I still get reports that occasionally, especially at nights, truck drivers do find and take opportunity of that corridor, creating an additional burden to the residents in the area. Constantine area was not an option because for those of us who know Constantine Road, exiting onto the main road down to Bolio, there's a treacherous couple of treacherous corners. Roads have been broken off, and that would be putting commuters at additional risk, and those are persons who are not familiar with that area. So in making those decisions, we had to look at all of the implications, take into consideration that there are persons who would not be familiar, and the volume of traffic. Just imagine the volume of traffic that you experience right now is shifted to Constantine with those serious road breakage in the area. So public safety was paramount in our decision going forward.
Residents of Monkmorris were asked to be very cooperative and told of the plans from both the RGPF and the Ministry of Infrastructure to ensure that areas of the road that needs attention is given immediate attention, as safety is of paramount importance. This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Did you join the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985 and have since retired? This might be important to you. Government understands that the NIS pension may be insufficient to take care of your needs. So, while it awaits the court's ruling on the matter of pension for public officers, government has taken action to protect your quality of life so that you can take care of your needs in the meantime. Persons who joined the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985 and served continuously in an established position for a minimum 26 years and 8 months and retired at age 60 may be eligible to receive an advance payment, which when combined with NIS represents 70% of their last salary. For more information, call or visit the Pension Secretariat in the Department of Public Administration, Ministerial Complex, 440-3767.
Welcome back. Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell and the 4 parliamentary representatives for St. Andrew handed over a check of $10,000 to the Munich Invaders Cricket Club on Thursday. The joint monetary contribution was promised to the winning team by the MPs and Prime Minister in 2019 at the start of the 2019 Cricket League. Parliamentary representative for St. Andrew South East, Honorable Emmeline Pear, said the contribution is intended to help maintain the proper organization of the sport within the parish.
You can count on us. We are going to continue to support. We are going to continue to encourage. And one of the things we have always advocated for is better organization of cricket in St. Andrew. And in saying this, I want to commend Brother Hilaire and his executive for the efforts they've made thus far. First, that we had cricket last year, and that's the first thing. And second is the effort that has been made to organize not just teams, but clubs. I heard him emphasize this, and it is the way to go. Ensuring that we move from teams to more clubs within our communities, that we do not have some of the challenges that we have in running the tournament in the future. Prepared to present to the Munich Invaders Sports Club, and I commend them, not a team, it's a club. 2 checks valued at $5,000 each, a total of $10,000. Congratulations and continue to support.
President of the St. Andrew Cricket Council, Terry Hilaire, commended the MPs and the Prime Minister for the support, which he believes will act as a motivation to the other teams in upcoming competitions.
St. Andrew's cricket, as we know, is the backbone of cricket in this country. And by having the 4 MPs in St. Andrews and the Prime Minister backing us, I believe that it is a plus, and we are asking them to continue to support St. Andrews cricket, continue to ensure that cricket play at a high level in St. Andrews.
And finally, 1 month after the traffic department activated 2 bypasses through the village of Monkmorris, members of the RGPF and representatives from the Ministry of Infrastructure held a meeting with the residents. The meeting was held at the Monkmorris Community Center and chaired by Commissioner of Police Acting Edwin Martin. The residents were given an opportunity to speak on some of the challenges experienced and give possible suggestions to guide the process of making the flow of traffic less challenging during peak hours.
I think they should put up guardrails very soon, because somebody's going to drive over and lose their life. You know what I mean? So that's all I have to say.
We can commit to installing galvanized pipe rails and some wooden rails until we get
Are we looking for something temporary?
Yes, we can do that. We can do that. So in the coming week, you will see some action on that.
I as well live in the Jones Road. We live right at the bottom of the hill coming from Mr. Campbell.
During the duration of what's been happening, we have been traveling the road as we used to, going up the hill on mornings, coming back down. If we were to go around the road, it would essentially take us at least 15 to 20 minutes to reach back into Mount Morris, in which time we would have reached maybe about Cherry Hill, if not a town, depending on traffic, which is going to be a major setback for us. We haven't had any issues coming out, given that when we leave the yard, we can pull in on the side if a vehicle is coming down, you blow your horn going up the hill. Some vehicles would blow back to say, yes, we're there, and you on the side when you get to the top. Some vehicles don't give any indication, but so far we haven't had any problem moving that way. The only issue that we have been having is that they're not giving us the chance to pull into our yard or pull out. There's no way to pull into the yard. You have to pull on the side, vehicles pass, sometimes you're turning, and vehicles are coming down on top of you, which is a big issue because from the top of the hill, as soon as you go the hill, you can see that there's a vehicle in the middle of the road and nobody wants to stop.
The very short and precise action or answer to this question is no. And no because, not just bluntly no and arrogantly no, but no because of the inherent risk that is involved. You may be running at 20 minutes longer on a route, but you must calculate that against the risk of $1,000 of repairs to your vehicle for an accident that can occur. It is an area where the most critical of sacrifices is required, the Drones Road area, because this is where the persons in that area lives seem to be disrupted the most. And we need to understand that the decisions here, we cannot allow any margin of risk that can cause injury to you and your vehicles or oncoming persons who are not aware of those circumstances. I take the comments on board and we will relook the matter. There is no definitive response that there will be a change, but we will relook this matter to see if there can be some sort of flexibility in that plan. But the decision we are leaving here with is no. The plan will have to remain as it is because the risk is simply too high.
And with that, we come to the end of the National Report for Friday, January 17th, 2019. On behalf of the entire news and production team, I am Sherry Ann Noel, thanking you for viewing.
Alrighty, folks, that's going to take care of your national report. See the lady sitting there. She is sitting and waiting, and we're going to get to her right after we take this very quick little break.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, neighbor.
Here's the bill I asked you to pay for me.
How did you get your electricity bill to be so low?
For one, we size our transformers just for what we need. And we unplug transformers, chargers, and other devices when they're not in use. We also replaced our light bulbs with LEDs.
They burn less energy, right?
Much less. I even replaced the seal on my refrigerator door to keep the cold air in.
And Grenlec is always advising us not to open the fridge too often.
That's right. And my family washes and irons in bulk.
With fuel prices changing all the time, how do you know if it is working?
We pay attention to the usage history table. Over time, our average usage has decreased.
So while Grenada can't control fuel prices, I can conserve energy and save money.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Alrighty, folks. Alrighty. I think. Keep our pinkies crossed. We're all set to go. Good morning, Gemma Bain. Auntie Gemma, how are you?
I'm good, and how are you this morning, George?
I'm on top of the world this morning.
I can
Maybe it's
see
because of
that.
Monday morning. Somehow I feel good on a Monday morning. Ready to take on the week.
No Monday morning blues.
Gemma, we have missed you guys for the past couple of weeks, and I understand that you guys have been very busy putting together a presentation on something which is very dear to us, and that is the National Health Insurance Program. And we're going to be joined by none other than your sister, Janice. She's on the line with us, and we're going to be talking with her in just a wee bit. But I want you to start by sort of putting together a little introduction here for us.
Okay, thank you, George, and good day to all the listeners and viewers tuned in to Fiscal Alert. We regret that circumstances have prevented us from having the program for the last few weeks, but we look forward to its resumption and to being with you. Today I am in the studio, as you would see, and Dr. Janice Bain has joined us via telephone. Our sister economist Laurel will join on Facebook. I hope she will enjoy the program as much as the listeners and the viewers. In this edition of Fiscal Alert, we would address the National Health Insurance, but specifically the proposal by the Joint Independent Provider Association, or JIPA, which is currently being discussed. George, National Health Insurance has been on the table for a few years. And when we discussed the budget speech, I recall it came up and we spoke about being transparent and providing information to the citizens. So what really is National Health Insurance? It is a financing system that will make sure that all citizens or identified citizens are provided with essential health care regardless of their employment status and ability to make a direct monetary contribution to the National Health Insurance Fund. A national health insurance can be administered by the public sector, the private sector, or a combination of both public and private sector, that is, a public-private partnership. Generally, in a national health insurance, the portion of the population to be insured or the exact benefits to be provided is a decision made by government. The government also regulates benefits, conditions of membership, ability to switch or maintain benefits, and contribution rates. Because government does all of that, it does not mean that you cannot have private insurance. But whatever decisions are made by government will set limits to the market for private insurance. And so that is why in any discussion of national health insurance, it is necessary to have the written policy statement of the government, because that policy statement will inform the model of health insurance and the design that is ultimately adapted. So the question is, where are we at this stage? We have been presented with a proposal by JIPA, or the Joint Independent Provider Association, which is a Miami-based firm. And this proposal is for the implementation of a national health insurance in Grenada. The proposal is part of phase 2 of the project. You will recall that in the 2020 budget speech, the Prime Minister stated that the deliverables for the first phase had been completed and that JIPA had been contracted to develop the process for implementation. So it is agreed that we are at the implementation stage. We were not told exactly what phase 1 encompassed, but we know that in 2018, the University of the West Indies Health Economic Unit was contracted to give proposals on the basic package of primary health care and hospital-based services, the costing of these services, the governance structure, and legislation that will guide the operations of a national health insurance system in Grenada. However, we have the proposal from GIPA, and that proposal makes no mention of the Phase 1 deliverables. And there should have been a mention or reference to what the University of the West Indies did if that was Phase 1. And that Phase 1 deliverables should be used as the baseline for the proposals put forward. Because remember, we are in the implementation phase. We are not reinventing the wheels. So at this point, I have a few questions. What has been done by the University of the West Indies Health Economic Unit? Was a report presented? What recommendations were made? And can and will that document be made public? Also, why are those recommendations not the starting point for the GIPA proposals? Or if they are included in the proposal, then we should be told so. Coming to the proposals from GIPA, it is based on the concepts of managed health care combined with value-based health care. It is considered to be a population-based model and put forward a stratified pooled risk coverage proposal. Under the program, the benefits and premium coverage will be stratified in 3 or 4 or potentially 4 tiers or levels of coverage. And at this point, I want to invite Dr. Janice Bain to explain to us the levels of coverage.
All right, Janice, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello?
Under the JIPA model, we have 3 basic levels of coverage. Under the first level of coverage, the funding for this level of coverage will be through the levy that is obtained on goods and services, which is proposed to be 1 to 2%. At this level, all citizens will be covered up to a maximum amount that is yet to be determined. The services that will be covered include primary care services, and again, the scope of this service is yet to be determined, non-specialized pediatric care, certain labs and diagnostic care, emergency room care, which is currently not free, and obstetric care. The point to note in all of this is that we have a list of services that will be covered, but the maximum amount that is allowed for each patient each year is not known to us. It is yet to be determined. In addition, the scope of the services is still yet to be determined. So I want to make some additional comments about this level of care before I move on to the second and third level of care. We will note that in this level of care, there is no mention about pharmaceuticals or prescription medications. Now, prescription medications is one of the driving force in increase in the healthcare cost. The National Health Insurance need to address how prescription medication will be managed under their model. In addition, there is no mention of how mental health will be managed in the proposal. National Health Insurance and the JIPA, again, need to provide clear guidance on how mental health will be provided. In addition, a national health insurance should focus on wellness as a way to ultimately lower the health costs. Screening and prevention need to be included at this level. We need to have things like pap smears, mammograms, and colonoscopy should be included in the national health insurance as a way of lowering the rate of death from cancer, cervical cancer, breast cancer, and colonoscopy. Of note also is that the medical stations and the healthcare facilities throughout the country, which currently provide primary care services to a vast majority of patients, is not mentioned in this model at all. We need to know if the medical stations will continue to operate as they currently are, and if they're not going to be continued under the program, what will happen to them? And so these are some of the high points or comments I would like to make about the first level.
Okay,
now under this,
Dr. Janice, most of the services that you mentioned are already provided at the community level, at the health center or the medical station, and in case of emergency room care at the general hospital. So how will what has
I'm
been
sorry, I'm not hearing Gemma.
Okay. Okay. I'm saying that most of the services already provided that you listed are already provided at the community level. So how will what has been proposed differ from what currently exists?
George, could you repeat the question? I'm hearing you clear, but I'm not hearing Gemma.
How will what has been proposed differ?
How will your proposal differ from what is being proposed by the administration at the moment?
What currently exists?
What currently exists,
okay. Currently at the medical station, I believe you can get pap smears and you can get primary care services. Under the JIPA model, again, there is no mention of the medical stations or how they will be integrated into the system. So we have no way of knowing whether this will continue. Now, in terms of patients who will go to primary care physicians, currently when you go to a primary care physician, you pay the physician, and for patients who have additional health insurance, they will receive reimbursement from the health insurance. Under the JIPA model, the patients will go to the physician and receive services from the physician. They do not have to pay anything to the physician. The payment between the physician and the payment for the physician will be made via JIPA. JIPA will use funds that's available from the 2% levy to pay the physician. In addition, JIPA will have contracts with the existing health insurance company, whereby they will receive a certain premium from the health insurance company, for which they will use to now pay providers and also pay for labs and diagnostic tests. So for the patient, the difference is if you go to your primary care physician, you do not have to pay. JIPA will coordinate all the payments.
And that primary care physician is the private primary care physician.
Did you get that, Janice?
Oh, I did not get the question.
Okay, she is asking if that primary care
Physician is a private physician.
Is a private physician.
So under the JIPA model, the primary care private physicians will enter into a service agreement that will be administered by JIPA. Under this service agreement, the physicians will become part of an independent provider network association. They will act as participating provider in the network, but they will function independently. JIPA will give the physicians a number of patients, and they will be responsible for all the primary care aspects of that patient. Now, the physician will be paid on a per head basis each month, whether they've seen the patient or not. And they will be paid through funds available in the National Health Insurance, but they will be paid by JIPA. The compensation arrangement with the physician will be determined by JIPA.
And so an essential difference is that persons who now are attended by private physicians and pay in the community will no longer have to pay that private physician because it will be under the NHI. That will be one of the major difference. So Janice, can we move on to the hospital level? Level 2?
Okay. I'm not hearing Gemma, but I will move on to the second and third level of coverage. Under the second level of coverage, this will cover services and it will have a maximum dollar amount, and that dollar amount is yet to be determined. And the services that are covered will be secondary specialist care and advanced diagnostic testing. And again, the scope of that care has not been told to us. It's yet to be determined. In the third level of coverage, if a patient meets the maximum amount above what is allowed in the second level of coverage, you will now be on the third level of coverage. And this level includes catastrophic care, life-threatening care, and care that is determined to be high cost. Again, the scope of the care is to be determined. Payment for this service will be via health insurance. To be able to access this level of coverage, you have to have additional health insurance. Now, the plan as to how JIPA will collect the money from the health insurance, they have two models, two proposals. In the first model, the insurance company will collect the premium from the patient or from the employer-sponsor health coverage. And the insurance company will now pay JIPA a certain percentage of that premium. And JIPA will assume coverage and risk of all the care associated with the patient from that point. In the second model, if the insurance company do not want to pay a certain amount of premium to JIPA, JIPA will now coordinate all the payments to the physician, and then they will seek reimbursement from the healthcare insurance. Under this model, JIPA will charge the health insurance an administrative cost for using that second model. And this is how the money will be gathered so that it can be placed in a central fund that will be managed by JIPA.
Okay.
And Gemma, this is in essence the first, second, and third level.
Okay, so thank you for that explanation. So as we see, everyone will be covered by the NHI in level 1. In level 2, there will still be need for private health insurance. So at this point, I will look at the proposals for financing and administration. And according to the proposal, the National Health Insurance Platform will be financed by the government but managed by JIPA. There is no mention in the proposal of the cost of the platform or the source of funding by government. For the implementation, it will be by international agencies to be managed by JIPA. And the tier 1 coverage, as Dr. Bain said, is through the 1 to 2% healthcare levy on goods and services and a portion of the current health allocation of $85 million. That also will be managed by JIPA. So the economic and financial implication needs to be further looked into. We know for sure there will be an increase in VAT to about 17%, but the other implications we propose that our economists, Laurel and Juliet, examine it at another date. But at this point, we want to state that the proposal needs to undertake a more dynamic analysis of costing, which will facilitate an assessment of any financing proposal. As it relates to the administration of the proposal, there will be a centralized administration system, also managed by JIPA. The physicians will be mandated through legislation to report information on patients to a central collection system, and ultimately medical records will also be centralized. As we said, the payments will be managed by JIPA through a third-party administration, which is a financial intermediary for the collection and disbursement of funds. So, George, what we see coming through so far is everything will be managed by JIPA. JIPA will also have a medical committee with a medical director with responsibility for the fee system, to developing the plan, strengthening the health system, quality and utilization, and for review of credentials. Now, some of these things are currently done by the Ministry of Health, and in the proposal, we see no reference to the Ministry of Health, but everything being undertaken by the JIPA network. And to ensure that all of this happens, JIPA will work with the government for the passage of legislation to cover issues associated with the implementation of the national health insurance, such as electronic records, premiums, decentralized data collection, and funding to include a super fund, which at this time I would ask Dr. Bain to speak to. The super fund.
Janice, you want to talk about the super fund?
Okay. So part of the JIPA proposal is to, in order to help strengthen the healthcare system, they propose to form a super fund. Now, this super fund will be a for-profit organization. It will be private, and it will be run independently from the government of Grenada. It will invite investors that are both domestic and international. Investors will be encouraged to invest as the services provided will be paid for by the national health insurance. They will potentially use government facilities to set up diagnostic lab centers, primary care centers, and laboratory centers to provide care. Now, my comments on this super fund is that, for one, it's a for-profit organization. And being for-profit means investors make a profit and the customers get the bare minimum. Now, in addition, JIPA will be determining which labs, which diagnostic tests will be provided under the national health insurance. They will also determine the fee structure for physicians and also the benefit packages under the insurance. In addition, they will also be setting up diagnostic labs and the laboratory centers, which are for-profit organizations. In my opinion, this has the potential for corruption. Dr. Gemma.
Well, thank you, Dr. Janice, for your views. So we see that we are in the implementation phase, but there's a lot of unknown based on the proposal presented by JIPA.
Before I lose my train of thought, could I just jump in here for a minute? I heard you mention a little while ago that from all appearances, this healthcare system is going to be managed by
JIPA.
Period.
Everything that is in the document is to be managed by JIPA.
Okay. Now, in her closing moments, Janice mentioned that there is an opening for corruption.
With the super fund.
With the super fund. Would you explain that? I want to fully grasp what you're talking about when you mentioned that potential.
Let Janice
George.
continue.
Go ahead, Janice.
So this fund will be, as I said, for profit. So the investors will have to get the maximum amount of profit they can get. Now, what they will be doing is that they will be attempting to use government facilities and set up laboratory areas or diagnostic areas where patients will be referred to get labs and x-rays and other diagnostic tests. Now, the fee, whether or not this will be covered under the National Health Insurance, will be determined by JIPA. So they will determine what tests will be covered under the primary level. And in addition, they will be creating this super fund to provide these services to these patients. And this would be a for-profit organization. So I can determine I will charge $50 to get a CBC, knowing that I will be sending these patients to a facility where I have invested interest in making a profit once the labs are being done at that facility.
Wow. All right. I have a question.
In addition,
Go ahead.
In addition, because I wasn't hearing Gemma properly, and I wanted to talk about the consultation. JIPA has visited many stakeholders, including the bank, the credit union, to discuss the model and present it to them. Now, I think that the most important stakeholder is the Grenadian people. Because after all, they are the ones who will be paying the 1 to 2% levy and the premiums for the health insurance. So I think it's very important for JIPA and the National Health Insurance to present to the Grenadian people exactly what is in this model, exactly what we will be getting after you have taken our 2% and our premiums. Because when I look at the model, JIPA has outlined exactly how they plan to collect the monies for the National Health Insurance. You have your 2% levy, you have your health insurance plan. Yet, when it comes to the details of the plan, it is yet to be determined. The maximum amount allowed for the year to be determined. Which labs and diagnostic tests to be determined. So we have no detail as to what we are going to get after they've taken out the money. So if JIPA came to me with this proposal, I will tell them that they are not taking 1 cent of my hard-earned money until they tell me exactly what I will be getting in return for it. And so I believe a vigorous debate is necessary.
Thanks for the eye-opener.
And that is why, George, we also need the phase 1 deliverables. What it is that the University of the West Indies Health Economic Unit recommended. What services, what was the costing that they proposed, and so forth.
Do you know what the costing proposed was, Janice? No?
Repeat that question, please.
The costings, you would know, it's not available. It's not publicly available.
That information has not been provided, but we were asking about the costing that was being proposed. I have a question here from somebody named Martin Lewis. He's asking, was JIPA in an open bid, like RFP, or was JIPA once again chosen in one of those sole source, make a deal with no one else allowed in?
In the consultation with civil society organization, the JIPA said that they put in a bid. And also in the document...
I'm not hearing properly, Jim.
Gemma is explaining that JIPA said at a recent consultation here that they did put in a bid, and that's in response to this question that Martin Ken Lewis is asking. Go ahead.
In the document also, that civil society organization provided, they said they responded to our bid.
Okay, that's been cleared up. I don't know if you can answer this one, Janice, but Kipling Francis is asking, is it true that in some cases there will be co-payments? I'm not sure what the question is, but do you know anything about co-payments, Janice?
Yes, and co-payments, when you go to your insurance company, let's say you go to a primary care physician, the insurance company may request that you pay $25 to your primary care physician, and they will take care of the rest. And that's what is typically referred to as co-payment. Now, there is no mention of this in the JIPA proposal. They have no mention as to whether or not there will be any co-payments required. Right. I'm not sure if under the current insurance policies in Grenada, if there is a co-payment, and Gemma might be able to answer that. But there's no mention in the document as to whether there will be co-payments.
In some of the private health insurance, there are co-payments. Yeah, because I have a policy under Public Workers Union with Sagico, and there's a co-payment aspect. So that if the doctor's fee is like $150, you might be responsible, let's say, for $40. And then the insurance take up the difference. In the private health insurance, yes, but the JIPA document has not explained all of these things. And so what we are saying is that this document needs to be further developed so that people could understand exactly what is being proposed. And in the further development of the document, we need to know what is the stated health policy of the government that informs these proposals. We need to know whether national health insurance will be mandatory for all citizens. And for example, the private physicians and the health insurance companies, whether it will be mandatory for all of them to be part of this proposal. There will be need for legislation, whether this draft legislation will be made available so that we can see them before they are passed into law. We also need to know what will happen to the medical stations, the health centers. How will they be utilized? How will mental health, dental health, eye care, pharmaceuticals be addressed? Would we be getting it as a part of the services provided? Then we also need to know whether insurance premiums will go up and how JIPA is being paid to do this. As Dr. Bain said, we know what we will be paying, but we do not know what we'll be getting back. And so there is need for more extensive dialogue, and government and JIPA personnel need to engage the community in more discussion.
Now, you were in a recent consultation with JIPA.
I was in the one with civil society. I made a presentation at the one with civil society organization.
Did you get any feeling from these folks that they are aware that there's a lot of ground left to be covered at this point in time?
Yes and no. In some instances, they seem to feel that they have come with this proposal that is working elsewhere and should be able to work here in Grenada.
Because it's working elsewhere, it should work here.
Right. There's a value-based proposal, and as a matter of fact, one of the discussants at the civil society organization looked at the value-based proposal and how experience with it in other territories.
Andrea St. B says here, so many questions, read this NHI. I wish these ladies can return with a few more sessions on this topic. Are you game, Janice?
I am game. You tell me when.
You tell me when.
But
tell me when and where.
We said, George, already, we need to look at the economic aspect.
There's
because we have not touched on the economic aspect of this proposal. And there's a lot of more information that needs to be made available to the public.
Okay. Janice, Gemma is agreeing, and she says that there's a lot more information that the public needs to be aware of. But I have a question here from somebody named Jackie O. She's saying, Jackie O is asking, so is this national insurance going to be like Medicaid?
It's probably going to be like Medicaid. It's managed care.
managed care?
It's managed care, so it's going to be like Medicaid. You will be assigned a physician that you follow up with. The model does not say what happens if you decide to follow up with a physician that's out of network. If you need specialty care, your primary care physician will now have to refer you to the specialty care before you could be seen within the network. And in addition, some of the services that may be recommended by your primary care physician will require prior authorization from JIPA before the services could be paid for.
All right, so Janice, you made your presentation this morning based on having studied the proposal from JIPA. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. But you were not at the consultation which was held this past week?
No.
You were not there?
No.
To wrap this up, Janice, let me ask you this. Based on your assessment of that proposal, what sort of, apart from the fact that you believe that there's a lot more information that needs to be provided to the public, what sort of feeling did you get? One, are these people capable? And two, were you reading that this may already have been a done deal?
From my read of the document, it sounds like it's a done deal to me. In the model, JIPA has proposed that they want to complete the implementation phase within 9 months. And I know from the budget, there's money already allocated for implementation for the year 2020. So this, in my opinion, is already a done deal. Now, when I look at the proposal, it is severely lacking, in my opinion. As I said, health insurance, you need to address preventative measures. What's going to be happening with pap smears, colonoscopies, mammograms? How is it going to be done? Is it going to be done at the mental health, at the medical station level? Is it going to be done by the primary care physicians? Are the specialists going to be the ones taking care of it? What's going to happen to prescription medications? These are drivers that increase healthcare costs. What's the point in telling me that I have high blood pressure and then you tell me, diet, exercise, but I need you to take these medications. But there's no way for me to get the medication. How are we going to help to bring the cost down of prescription medications? So once we've diagnosed conditions, we know patients are now able to access affordable medications. So in addition, we just do not know what's the maximum amount allowed per patient, and is that enough to take care of the primary care concerns of the patient? If a patient with diabetes and heart disease and high blood pressure, are they going to be allowed the same maximum amount as someone with no medical problems? So the details, we have absolutely no details.
All right, Margaret Francis in New York says she has a question. Will NHI be the sole health insurance, or will private insurance still exist as an option?
And this is the same question we have, because the JIPA model did not say whether or not, and the government have not said whether all insurance companies will be mandated to be part of this national health insurance. So we do not know. We do not know if everybody will have to be part of the national health insurance or if private insurers will be allowed.
And that is why the government policy is necessary.
So this is a question that we need to forward to JIPA and also to the government.
Andrea St. B is asking, what if the specialty care is not available locally? What next?
There is no mention in the JIPA model. There is no mention as to what will happen in that scenario. Now, if you need a specialty care that's not available, I'm assuming that this will take you either to the second or the third level. And so if you're in the second and third level, you need to, these are people who have health insurance. And so you might be able to take your health insurance and seek consultation elsewhere. For the people who do not have additional health insurance, there's
Nothing
no mention of
changes.
how these people will be addressed in the JIPA model.
You know, Janice and Gemma, this is just another example of why our little get-together here on Monday mornings is so important, because this has been an eye-opener over the last half hour. An eye-opener. I heard you raise a number of concerns here, and I have seen some of these concerns being echoed by the people who are watching on social media. So thank you very much for opening eyes. And what is really, really disturbing, you never said that it is a fact, but you suggested that this may already be a done deal based on your assessment of the proposal that you read from JIPA. That is disturbing, because with so many unanswered questions, how could we be at a point where the impression is being given that, hey, take it or leave it? Is there any more room, as far as you know, Gemma, for further consultation?
Maybe, but I don't. I'm not sure what the schedule of consultation is.
Gemma says
So
maybe,
but I'm not sure.
She's not sure.
I know last week they
George.
had a number of consultations.
Go ahead, Janice.
I think that one of the exact consultation that is needed is a consultation with the Grenadian people through outreach in the community, where they can let people know exactly what it is they plan to give them. And they can make a decision as to whether they think this is adequate or this is acceptable. So I think that's one big consultation that's missing.
Okay, point taken. And I'm hopeful that because people have heard you guys this morning, that is going to materialize. But Janice and Gemma, let me be perfectly honest with you. They could go out into the rural areas and all over the place and, give Grenadians an opportunity. But if Grenadians don't get off their duffs and go and contribute, let people know what they think, how they feel. Okay? You're spending top in mud. Waste of time. And then, down the road, when things go sour, you start pointing fingers at government. That's a nasty habit we have in this country. A nasty habit. Thank you, ladies. Hold on a second. Andrea St. B says, we always have to put the horse before the cart. Rush to implement programs without thoroughly planning them. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And George, that is why we need that report, to know whether there was a report from UWI.
Okay.
And what did that report recommend as the package of primary health care and hospital-based services that should be part of the national health insurance. Whether it was costed, because we do not know at this point even whether the 2% levy and the portion from the 85 million will be able to cover the cost of the services that is required for the population. And George, my reading of all of this, with everything being managed by JIPA, appears to be a movement towards privatization of the health services under the banner of a national health insurance.
And George,
go ahead.
I think one other thing, because we have the National Sustainable Development Plan. And so we have to also take a closer look, and maybe that's something we can discuss on another day. How does this JIPA model line up with the ideas in the national insurance, in the national sustainable development plan.
All right, I'll tell you what, because of the importance which I've attached to what you folks have said here this morning, I'm going to make sure that as many people as possible get to hear this, and I'm going to do that by, not only is it going to be up on the site in a few minutes, but I'm going to make sure that we run this segment on Sundays, this coming Sunday's edition of Sundays with George Grant. I want people to hear what you ladies had to say. And I'm assuming that maybe next week you guys will continue this, or somewhere down the road?
Somewhere down the road.
Somewhere down the road.
Yeah.
Okay, Janice? We'll stick with it until it's improved.
Thank you so much. I really, really do appreciate that. We've been talking with Dr. Janice Bain, who is a doctor of internal and obesity medicine out there in the United States. And she's part of the Bain Sisters team. Sitting right here with me this morning is Gemma Bain Thomas. Gemma, I can't tell you how important the last half hour has been to the Grenadian people. I just pray to God that we are listening. It's not the first time this type of thing has just been forced on us. It's become the norm these days. You know, you hear about consultations, and then the people who were at those consultations complain they never heard any of their suggestions or recommendations being enforced. God help us. Thanks, James.
Thank you, George, for having us.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, folks, I don't know what else to say, but God bless Grenada. We need all the help we can get. Yeah, hang on a sec here. Time to say goodbye to Janice. Janice, oh, why does Janice keep popping up here this morning? Look at that. I can't get rid of Janice. Can't get rid of Gemma. Wow. Okay, there we go. Break time, pilgrims. Don't go anywhere because we're going to come back and we got a parting word for you. Very important stuff, so listen up.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, neighbor.
Here's the bill I asked you to pay for me.
How did you get your electricity bill to be so low?
For one, we size our transformers just for what we need. And we unplug transformers, chargers, and other devices when they're not in use. We also replaced our light bulbs with LEDs.
They burn less energy, right?
Much less. I even replaced the seal on my refrigerator door to keep the cold air in.
And Grenlec is always advising us not to open the fridge too often.
That's right. And my family washes and irons in bulk.
With fuel prices changing all the time, how do you know if it is working?
We pay attention to the usage history table. Over time, our average usage has decreased.
So while Grenada can't control fuel prices, I can conserve energy and save money.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Quad Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Alrighty, folks, just before we pull the curtain down here, Enid, I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name, Enid, but Enid here says, is the public getting any input or say into this healthcare system which concerns them? That's what we are more concerned about, ain't it? Thanks for asking. Pilgrims, just before we pull the curtain down, I do have a parting word for you from the Holy Scriptures. Psalm 103, verses 8 to 14. All right? Now, it says, "The Lord is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love. He will not always accuse. He does not treat us as our sins deserve, or repay us according to our iniquities. For as high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is his love for those who fear him. As far as the east is from the west, so far as he removed our transgressions from us. As a father has compassion on his children, so the Lord has compassion on those who fear him. For he knows how we are formed. He remembers that we are dust." Psalm 103, verses 8 to 14. All right, now Georgie Porgy is going to hightail it out of here and go do some real work. Yeah? You can't consider this work. This is fun. I love sitting here. I love doing this.
I realize you're enjoying it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. You have a great day, my dear friends, and may the good Lord bless you, keep your hearts at peace, and help you to meet your needs. By his grace, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 9.